Hi, this is Andrew with Infinity Cutting Tools. Today I'm going to show you how to sharpen your chisels and plane irons using the Infinity Sandpaper Sharpening System. The Infinity Sandpaper Sharpening System consists of three main components. The first is 9 different grits of wet dry sandpaper ranging from 220 all the way up to 2500 grit. The second piece of this system is a vise style honing guide. This guide is great for allowing you to maintain a consistent bevel angle while you're doing your sharpening. The third piece of this system is the Infinity Honing Setup Gauge. This gauge makes it really easy to set up your chisels and plane irons for sharpening and maintain a consistent 25 or 30 degree bevel. It also comes with a shim that allows you to set up for a MicroBevel while you're sharpening. The only thing you'll need is a good flat surface. This can be anything from a piece of glass, a large piece of granite from your granite supplier, or a simple 12 by 12 granite tile from the home center. That's what I have here. They work great for sharpening and you don't have to worry about having it break. If it does become damaged, you can simply pick up a new one. I like to take my sandpaper and tear it into smaller pieces. These are 1/6 sheet size pieces and they're perfect for sharpening the types of tools that I'm working on here today, like my chisel and my block plane. I also like to take some spray adhesive and simply add a light coat of glue to each piece. Then I can simply take those, stick them down to my tile, and I don't have to worry about the paper moving while I'm doing my sharpening. There we go. I have all my pieces of sandpaper stuck down to my tile, and I went ahead and labeled them with a permanent marker so I don't forget which piece of paper is which grit. The first step to sharpening any tool, whether it be a brand new chisel or an old plane iron, is to make sure that the back of the tool is flat. To do this, I'm going to start at 220 grit and I'm going to work up through the grits, ensuring that I remove the scratches from the previous grit before moving on to the next. I'm also going to use a spray bottle with a little bit of water in it to lubricate my sandpaper while I do my sharpening. Okay, I've worked my way through all the grits. I'm just about done with my chisel, finishing up on 2500 grit, and the goal here is to see a nice polished back to our chisel with no waves or distortion, indicating that we have a nice flat back with no scratches. Now that we have the back of our chisel flattened and polished, we're ready to turn our attention to the bevel. To do this, I'm going to put my chisel in my side clamping honing guide and loosely fasten it. Then I'm going to grab my Honing Bevel gauge, and this gauge is set up to be used for both chisels and plane irons. So I'm choosing the side that's marked chisel, and I'm going to be sharpening at a 25 degree angle. I simply place the chisel, slide the honing guide up against, lock it down, grab my screwdriver, give it a little twist, and I'm ready to start honing my bevel. Alright, I'm honing my bevel. I'm making sure to make only pull strokes so I don't run the risk of cutting my paper, and I'm working on my 220 grit paper to make this a quick process. I want to hone my bevel until I pull a burr on the very edge of my cutting edge. That will let me know that I have sharpened away all the old material and I'm ready to move on and do my final honing. Now that I've got my bevel fully established and I check and I can feel the burr on the back side of my chisel. Once I have that burr, I'm ready to move on to my finest grit and remove the burr and do my final honing. Before I do my final honing, I want to produce a MicroBevel on my chisel. To do this, I'm going to grab my setup gauge and use the shim that's included. I'm simply going to set my chisel in place, put the shim between the cutting edge and the stop. Now I can loosen my honing guide, slide it forward, tighten it back down, use my screwdriver to give it a little snug, and now I've produced a slight increase in my bevel angle to produce my MicroBevel. Now that I've set my honing guide for my MicroBevel, I'm going to simply flatten the back on my 2500 grit paper to roll the burr that we produced on the bevel back over. Now I can take my honing guide and hone my MicroBevel. Just a few strokes is all it'll take, and I'll have a perfect sharp chisel. A great way to test your chisel if it's sharp is to use a simple piece of paper. If you can slice the paper without tearing it, your tool is sharp. Another way to test that your chisel or plane iron is sharp is to test it on a piece of soft wood ingrain. If you can cut the ingrain without tearing, you know that your chisel is ready for work. It's that easy to sharpen any tool using the Infinity Sandpaper Sharpening System. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out our blog for the latest information from us here at Infinity.